OP07 has officially released in Japan and people are going wild posting deck lists. In this video today, we're going to talk about tournament deck lists that have already started appearing and a lot of other lists that I've seen posted online. My name is Atrocious, you can also call me Jake, and if you're new to the channel, I'm chronically on Twitter, which is why I see a lot of these deck lists. So you've come to the right place because I'm going to save you a lot of time. Now the first couple lists that we're going to talk about in this video comes from Takoyaki. Now this is a Japanese Twitter account that was running tournaments in Kansai in the OP07 format. So let's talk about Law. I predicted in a previous video that Red Purple Law was going to be tier 1. And just like that in this tournament, it did end up getting top 3. Now primarily in this list, we've seen a lot of things that we kind of saw before in EB01, something that you may not recognize because EB01 format was literally just like one tournament, is that secret rare Bond Clay or Mr. 2. Similar to what we've seen in Red Purple Laws with the Raise Max Gordon combo and running different pieces that are instrumental to the deck like Sachi and Penguin, the Trafalgar Law promo, and the Rush Zoro. Some of the other cards that we've seen get boosted in recent sets, the Killer and Kid. I absolutely love this card. I will play this card in so many decks. But one that did make an appearance in one of my favorite cards from the upcoming set is the new OP07 Sanji. Played as a 4 of in this deck, this super rare Sanji is very nice. While you have 2 or more fewer Dawn cards than your opponent in your hand, this card costs 3 less and is a blocker. At 6,000 power and also 2k counter, this deck has so many different options in it. You've got 12 cards that have 2k counter in the Sachi and Penguin, the Sanji now, the Buena Festa, as well as a lot of times you're going to be behind in Dawn in the game because of your leader effect. So more often than not, you are going to play a 6,000 power blocker for 3 Dawn. That is insane value. Sure, you can't necessarily use it off of the leader effect to put down essentially for free, but like, again, we're talking about 3 Dawn. You can use the leader effect, and then when you go down in Dawn compared to your opponent, you can slap down that Sanji for 3. It can cost 6 before the leader effect, but then as soon as that Dawn goes away, 3. So cool of a list. I will definitely be playing this if and when I eventually get Gordon's, I guess. The winning deck of this 46 person tournament though was Yellow Enel. Now this Enel list playing, you know, the usual Shirahoshi, Gadatsu, Onami, the Hioris and Beijeis and Cats and Yamatos and Okikus, the Reject, the Amarus, also not playing the I Am God. We saw that I Am God card very prevalent in the EB01 Japanese Nationals, which you can catch that video on YouTube if you want. On my YouTube channel, I did do English commentary on it. But playing new cards in the 10-drop Ace and the new 4-drop Frankie. Now the Ace we knew was going to be really good in Enel. Just about everybody under the sun has been saying it. That 10,000 power, 10 cost on play, you may add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. Then if you have 2 life cards or less, this character gains rush for the turn. So effectively, especially for Enel, it's always going to be a 10,000 rush character that adds life. So good in this deck. You obviously play that as your 4 of as another boss monster. The Frankie though, the Frankie is another addition of 2k counters in your deck. So now you're playing what, 12 2k counters still at this point. 2 for 2 on decks playing 12 2k. I think it's interesting to know. This Frankie is a 5,000 power 4-cost vanilla character, but it has that trigger draw 1. Then if you have 1 life or less, play this card. Now, as we mentioned many other times, the Enel is going to be at 1 or less life a lot of times. Most all the time. So having reoccurring life constantly, this trigger is going to be super impactful because one of the things that is really interesting about this that a lot of people might not know about in terms of these specific rulings for the One Piece trading card game is that if you have 2 life left and you take this life and you activate the trigger, when you activate the trigger, that card is technically out of life. So when you activate this trigger and draw a card, you then look at your life that is left to see if you have of 1 or less life. So if you have 2 life or less before the attack and you reveal a Frankie trigger, that is another set of cases where you are going to get to play this card, this 5,000 power body that's ready to attack, and draw a card on top of that. Usually a lot of times we've seen these characters like Sanji, Satori, right, that have the trigger of discard a card from hand. No, this says draw a card. Now these next couple deck lists that I'm going to show you are from Shumai Cup, running a tournament that had over 100 people participating in it. The winning list, going 6-0, is a leader that, I mean, I think we all could have predicted that this leader was going to be really good, Sakazuki. The thing about Sakazuki in this deck, though, that I don't really think surprises a lot of people, which is why we won't spend too much time on it, is this is literally the same thing, right? We did see the EB01 changes where you are playing T-Bone now, another 2k counter that you can put in your hand, and then also this list specifically playing a couple Brooks, but no OP07 cards. This is a pretty standard list. I don't know if I really have anything else to say on it, but if you're a fan of Sakazuki, you can pick this up. The next couple lists, though, this is where things get juicy. Second place overall in this tournament at 5-1, we have the green Bonney. I predicted that Bonney was going to be a tier 1 deck right out of the gate, and it looks like it's off to a great start. Playing the Jewelry Bonney Searcher, but also the Baby 5 Searcher. You have Supernova and also Don Quixote Doflamingo Pirate Searchers. You're playing that EB01 Cavendish, the 10-drop Doflamingo, because why not? Just about every green deck plays it at this point. And a couple brand new cards. One is Eroge from the Fallen Monk Pirates, a 1k 4-cost 5,000 power body. It is a blocker, which at the end of your turn sets up to one of your Dawn cards as active. I didn't even think about this beforehand, but this being a Supernova and setting up to one of your Dawn cards as active at the end of the turn works perfect with the Bonney leader. On opponent's attack once per turn, rest 1 Dawn, rest up to one of your opponent's leader or characters. Synergizes literally perfectly. You don't have to try to strategically leave Dawn open at the end of your turn. Like when you're in the 4 Dawn turn, you're like, oh, I can only play a 3-cost character because I don't want to use this other Dawn. No, you don't have to worry about that. Just play down that Eroge, maximize your Dawn to its total efficiency, and then just bring a Dawn back up to use for your leader effect. Absolutely crazy, especially even against a deck like Sakazuki or Gecko Moira, right, where things are either KO'd or bottom decked really easily. As a 4-cost, you may look at it and be like, that blocker's not really worth it. But in my opinion, I think you get just enough value from that effect, even if you don't actually get to block. The block is just like, if this sticks, this is even worse for your opponent. Also playing that new 5-cost Bonney right there. On play, up to one of your opponent's rested characters or Dawn do not become active during their next refresh phase. A really nice 5-drop 6,000 power character to annoy your opponent because you have other kind of freeze effects in the Don Quixote Doflamingo, right? That Basil Hawkins is there too because you have a Supernova leader. This is a 6-cost 7,000 power blocker once per turn. If this character were to be removed from play by one of your opponent's effects, you may rest one of your opponent's characters instead. We know how good Enel is, the Rush Enel, right? We saw it dominate in like OP05 and even in EB01 and stuff, but that was taking your own life and trashing it. This is literally resting one of your opponent's characters instead. That's crazy. Also, there's that Rosinante there, that 8-cost Rosinante. If you don't have any, good luck, because I'm pretty sure the alternate art had a buyout, and I bet the the secret rare version as well, it does not last long. The next list I'm going to show you is a moneky.d.dragon list as well. That was the winner of the side event in this tournament, so the side event probably like decently large. Reminder that moneky.d.dragon, Red Revolutionary Army, activate main once per turn, give up to a total of 2 of your currently attached Dawn to one of your characters. So really good at just redistributing the Dawn that you use for attacks. Can work really well on the Emporio Ivankov and Karasu combos, and also really the Rush Monkey Day Luffy's that they have in this deck. It's not necessarily a deck that is playing a ton of new cards, but with the Revolutionary Army, something that we've seen in Bello Betty, something that we've seen in Red Black Sabo, right? Even in Red Yellow Sabo in the starter deck 13. Revolutionary Army is always just kind of like an afterthought in like red decks, which is like one of my personal favorites, so be nice. You're also playing a new one of in that Deathwink, which in my opinion is really cool. For 1 cost on main, give up to one of your characters with Revolutionary Army type 2000 power for the turn, then give one of your opponent's characters minus 1000 power for the turn. This also is interesting because with a trigger that is activate the main effect, you can boost up characters that are going to be swung at, right? Like your important characters like Karasu, or the maybe like Killer and Kid, or even the moneky.d. Luffy or the moneky.d.dragon SRs that you have. Considering that moneky.d.dragon is a 9000 power character that on play gives up to a leader of one of your characters up to 2 Rested Dawn. Not that it matters after, you know, you play an attack with it, but it's still 9k body, very strong character, so like you probably want to get rid of it. You play a couple 2Ks in here with the koalas and Sanjis, and also this when are we getting this Sabo promo? Isn't it like a treasure cruise promo? Dawn ×1, if you have 4 or less cards in hand, this character gains 2000 power. The last one that I'm going to talk about in this video is a blue yellow ace. This comes from the Twitter account, hopefully I'm reading this correctly, Watoru, and this is more of a theory crafting deck of the idea. Now, not surprising with this starter deck 13 leader that you're playing several starter deck 13 cards in the ace, the Luffy's, right? But playing some new stuff in the ace, the blocker ace, which I think I did mention in the YouTube video, is a card that you probably want to play. It is a 5 cost ace that you can use with your combos to be able to just get him on the field right away. He also, with that getting him on the field right away, has that on play effect as a blocker. Draw 2 cards, return 2 cards from your hand to the top or bottom of your deck in any order of your choice. You play also the moneky.d. Luffy that you got in here, that yellow 5 cost character, with again works well with your combos in the deck. That activate main, you may place this character in your trash if you have 2 or life less. K up to one of your opponents, cost 4 or less characters, then draw a card. Also as a trigger, if K up to one of your opponents, costs 4 or less characters. So especially because with that leader effect, comboing that ace to rearrange your deck a little bit and then use your activate main to look at the top 5, find that Luffy, put that Luffy in life, and then maybe get that trigger, maybe get that card in your hand. Could be really interesting. Although it says end of your turn, trash all face-up cards in your life. So how does this deck work? This is a very interesting concept of a deck. I'm curious to see people play this potentially and try to do a little bit more. But yeah, that's a couple deck lists that we have here in the start of the OP07 format. I have some more deck lists too that I've been getting. I have, what is it, 6 more deck lists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of them includes Vegapunk and another one includes Blue Green Zoro Sanji. So like, there's some sick stuff going on in this format really early. I'm excited to see what everybody continues to build, and let me know down in the comments what you're excited to play in either OP07 or maybe just like next week at your locals. I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to click for more, and yeah, didn't use the demonic PNG tube today, the little moneky.d. Luffy. Maybe I'll use it in the future.